Hi everyone, Dr. O'Malley here, and this week we're talking about advanced applications in teaching, and our guiding question being, what innovative teaching strategies can be employed to convey advanced counseling concepts effectively? So to teach this, what I thought would be cool is I share 9 or 10 books that I think would be really helpful for you to pull off of. And now I'm not saying you need to go read all of them, but if you like where this book is heading, you might order it and read it so that you can really learn from it as you start to think about how you're going to teach and how you're going to show up as a counseling educator. So the first book is called How Learning Works. It's a favorite of mine, and the biggest lesson that you can take away from this is that brand new or previous knowledge isn't always good. Previous knowledge isn't always good. So your brain is not a brand new iPhone. It's more like a phone with a weird old app still running in the background. So prior knowledge can be great, or it can sometimes crash the system. So if you come into counseling thinking therapy is just giving advice as an example, you're going to have trouble downloading anything new. So step one is updating your mental apps so that they stop sabotaging your upgrade. Next is the book Small Teaching. So even tiny shifts like opening class with a retrieval question can dramatically improve long-term retention. Some of the small things I do that have been lasting impact. One, I require every student to know the name of every student in the class. It goes such a long way in building community. I do what I call a quick rapid round. I say 30 seconds or less, and you gotta hold them accountable 30 seconds because some will just keep going. What did you take away from the reading? So that gets me to think about what they're, how they're reflecting on that. And another thing that I will sometimes do is remind folks on why we're doing what we're doing. So in my spirituality class, I have them share spiritual stories, and I will say, why are we doing this? I will ask them all the time, why are we doing this? Well, the purpose is to listen for spiritual themes and to check in with what's coming up with us personally. When I ask that class 2 or class 3, they don't always understand the purpose, even though I've repeated it multiple times. By the end, they do. So remember, those small things can go a long way in the whole course. The next is teaching at its best. And the idea is that transparency is gold. Showing folks or telling students what you're wanting from them can go such a long way. So keep in mind that students aren't mind readers. If you hand them an assignment with no clear instructions, it's like giving someone IKEA parts without the manual. And this book will really argue for rubrics, and that rubrics are in many ways, going back to the IKEA analogy, the Allen wrench of teaching. They take away the mystery, lower anxiety, and make sure no one builds a lopsided bookshelf, which I have a lot of in my house since we do a lot of IKEA stuff. Next is learner-centered teaching. And this is the idea that the biggest transformation in teaching happens when students own the learning process. So the best teachers aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who set the stage for students to do the heavy lifting. Think of it kind of like driving school. If the instructor never lets you touch the wheel, you'll never learn to drive. And in counseling education, that means students taking ownership of their own teaching demos, reflections. Think about when you're in practicum and a student finishes a session. Many times I see new counseling educators want to grab the wheel, drive again, but your job is to teach them how to drive. So don't grab the wheel. Ask them those big open-ended questions. What did you think of that session? The next one is inclusive teaching, and it's the idea that many inequalities in classrooms don't come from prejudice, but from design choices. So, inclusion isn't just about warm, fuzzy intentions. It's about being intentional about what you're doing, right? So one thing that I do is in my groups class, I will sometimes ask the big class a question, and many times, a man will be the first to speak, and then I point that out in the here and now and get them to see how the social dynamics play out in front of us. And that's why after that time, I rarely go to the big class. And I get intentional with how I want folks to report out and work together. It's about design. Next is Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which, y'all, is a OG book. Like, y'all do need to read this one because it's one of the popular or most well known. And for this, it's keeping in mind that, like, in foreign policy, people might want to be Switzerland and be neutral, but things are never neutral. Teaching either reinforces the system or cracks it open. And if you treat education like a bank deposit, just dumping in information in the students' heads, you're training robots. If you treat it like a dialogue, you're training change agents. So in supervision, this means moving from I grade you to we're building wisdom together. Do you see the big difference? We need to stop thinking of ourselves as in this superiority position and think about how we can engage our students that they can tap into some of the experiences and inner wisdom they already have. Next is Teaching Naked. Love this book. The name is great. But what's so cool about this book is that it is about technology. However, they argue that you should get the technology out of the classroom so that you can focus on being human in the classroom. How cool is that for counseling? So think about this, like the lecture I'm doing right now. I'm sure if I spend some more time, I could probably find someone online that does it better. Now, instead of going up and lecturing in front of a whole class, you realize you're competing against all the videos that are out there. So maybe having them watch a video outside of class and then coming in and figuring out a way to be human with it. That's what this book is teaching you, and it's some cool stuff to look into. Next is classroom assessment techniques, and in this one, it's being mindful that assessment doesn't always have to be exams. Low stake things can really help too. So one thing I like to do is I'll take a deliberate practice video. I will show it to students on day one, and I will ask them to respond, and then we will go ahead and do that a couple times throughout the term, and then measure and think about how we're evolving. That is assessment too. And then this book, Creating Significant Learning Experiences, and it goes with our Jesuit values and our mission to provide, transformative education, that you want to look for significant learning that integrates the cognitive, human, and affective emotional domains. So you want to think about, like, how can you get students, like, connected? That's how I think folks, like, really kind of learn, is by being connected. And just remember that good teaching isn't just like putting knowledge in students' heads. It's about putting them through an experience and a process that changes who they are. So if you were to think about it as a stew, you need the mind, what they know, the hands, what they can do, and the heart, which is who they're becoming. And if one of those things from the stew is missing, well, not so good. But when all of them are in there, that's when transformation happens. So I want you to think about what are some of the more powerful moments you've had in learning experiences, and how can you bring those when you're teaching.